Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Mostly From Scratch. I am your host Mr. Munchies, and this is going to be a 4-part series on how to make some really good smoked ribs, coleslaw, and cornbread. So this episode I'm going to show you how to take care of the ribs, get them all set up and ready to go on the smoker. Alright, so let's get started. What you will need is either a large bowl, pan, or I have these steamer pans that I use for my festival work, so I have one of those. To start out with, what you're going to do is take 1/2 cup of white sugar or raw sugar. I use the raw sugar. 1/4 cup of either kosher salt or regular table salt. You're going to need a 1/4 cup of Worcestershire sauce and about a 1/4 cup of white vinegar. Take those ingredients, put them in your bowl, and then take about 2 quarts of water, add that to it, mix it up real well, make sure all your salt and your sugar are dissolved, and then take your ribs, cut them in half, and then add them to the brine. Now make sure that the brine covers the ribs completely. Cover it up, put it in the refrigerator. You can get away with 24 hours, but 48 hours is really the best. Once they're done brining, pull these out and show you what they look like. They're just going to look like waterlogged ribs. So what you want to do now that they've brined is take them out and let them drain for a few minutes on a pan with a rack. Okay. So there you have it. Now to this, what I am going to do is I'm going to season 1/2 and I'm going to sauce the other half. So the seasoning half, it's okay that it's wet because it'll help the seasoning soak in. Now, as always, you can use whatever seasoning you want on this. I happen to have, let's see if we can get a close up on that. These are Blazing Blends. I get these at my local dollar store. It's really good. It's kind of my go-to seasoning for a lot of stuff. I like it because it's got a good flavor, it's not too salty, and it goes with a lot of stuff. So I'm going to use that, and I'm going to use, my brother makes a homemade hot pepper shake. He dries out his peppers, grinds them up, and then, you know, puts them in a jar. This is like, this will light you up, I'll tell you what. So what I'm going to do first is put a little bit of my brother's hot pepper shake on here. And then I'm going to take the Blazing Blends and sprinkle that on there. Get a nice generous coat. And then I'm going to flip it over and do the back side as well. Because I don't know about you, but I like the skin on the backside, especially when it gets nice and crispy. I don't know, some people might think that's a little weird, but I like that. So once again, a little bit of hot stuff on there. And Blazing Blends. And we're good to go on that one. Flip that back over. Now, for the sauce side, I'm going to sauce them now before they go in the smoker because the smoker cooks very slowly. It maxes out at about 250. So by saucing them before they go on, it gives the sauce a little bit time to, I don't want to say caramelize, it doesn't really caramelize, but it thickens out and it becomes a nice coating on there. So to get the sauce to stick to it, I'm going to pat this part of the ribs dry. So I'm just taking one of these blue work towels. I'm going to pat it dry. That way the sauce will stick good. flip it over the back side. Now this is the short end of the ribs. You got the tail right there. These are going to cook. That end will cook a little bit faster than the thick end, so that's why I'm saucing this end, because it'll kind of help keep it a little moist. Okay, so take our sauce and brush that on there. Get it on nice and thick. Flip it over the front side. Make sure you wash your hands after you handle your raw pork too. It's like chicken, you know, you don't want to get any bacteria anywhere. Okay, that doesn't look like enough sauce, so I'll probably put a little bit more on here off camera, but I'd like it a little bit thicker on there. So, there we have it. You brine your ribs, put your coating on it, sauce it, whatever you want to do to them. And now I'm going to break off and go out. Well, actually, before that, these are going to set for probably about, I don't know, 15-20 minutes. Give the stuff a little time to soak into the meat, and then I'll break off. Take you out to the smoker that I use, and we'll pick it up from there. Okay, so here we are outside at the smoker. This is the smoker that I use. This is an electric smoker. I believe it's referred to as a wet smoker because it has this pan in it that you put water in. That's to keep your stuff moist. So to get this started, what I have here are some applewood chips that I've soaked for about an hour. I prefer the applewood because it's not as strong of a taste as, say, for instance, mesquite. It's a little bit sweeter taste. So what I'm going to do is dump the water that these are soaking in into the pan. Okay. Now I'm going to take my chips and go ahead and place them around the element. Now don't put them right on the element, just put them right next to it. Now if you've got one of these smokers, you already know how to use it. If you don't have one of these smokers and you want to smoke some stuff, this is really easy because all you do is load it up, plug it in, and then just let it go. Okay, we got our chips around our element. Put our body back on there. Put our first rack in. On the first rack, now I had to modify this to accept 2 racks. What I did was put a couple of screws in the side because it really only has, comes from the manufacturer with 1 rack holder. So you can do that as well. Alright, got the first rack in there, and I'm going to put the dry rub ribs on that rack first. Okay, put our second rack in, and I'm going to put my sauced ribs on that rack. There you have it. And I did add some more sauce to that. Okay, so now we're going to put our top on. As you can see, I've used this a lot. It's very well seasoned. Put our top on and plug it in. And that's pretty much all there is to it. I will let these go for probably 5 to 6 hours. The baby back ribs I usually do about 4 to 5 hours. Now I give that window of hour because weather conditions will make a difference. If it's really windy out, the cooker doesn't seem to get as hot because of the wind blowing across it, and it doesn't seal completely. So I usually kind of gauge on that. But these are full-size ribs, 5 to 6 hours. You know, this is a slow cooker, so you don't have to worry about stuff burning or drying out too much. That's because the water's in there. And depending on how much water you have in your bowl, you might want to come out and check it. Maybe at the 4-hour mark, you may need to add a little bit more water in there so it doesn't dry out. So that's it for now. I am going to go in and get set up to make the coleslaw. That'll be episode number 2, or part 2 of this. And then after we do the coleslaw, we are going to do our cornbread for part 3, and then part 4 will be plating everything up. All right, so that's it for now, or this part, and I'll catch you back in a little while.